plexiglass dividers. In addition to that, we have the health pledge that employees and students are going to complete every morning. For the employee side, I can attest to, so if somebody cannot affirm to that health pledge, if there is a situation and they can't affirm to that, not only are they given email instructions, but a representative from HR is contacting them to kind of follow up, and that is even happening on the weekends. Managers, HR managers are taking weekend shifts to follow these pledges to make sure that, you know, we follow up with the employee if they're not able to, you know, if there's a concern. So with the fall semester starting, we've all been directed to return to campus. If we haven't already been here from August 3rd, we've already been directed to return to campus now. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the modification process for those people, for whatever reason, who may not be able to return, feel they can't return to campus. Any requests starting September 1st, Human Resources is processing only 100% work modification requests for an employee's medical condition or documented disability. Anything less than 100% is being handled informally between the employee and their divisional executive and manager. Final approval on anything, any of these kind of informal work modifications, final approval is always coming from the divisional executive. Another thing, all work, from human resources perspective, all work modification requests are individual requests. Facilities and Operations has been working for months addressing workplace concerns to ensure appropriate safety precautions are in place. University feels this mitigates the need for staggered shifts within offices. Any exception to this, whether in the past exceptions, you know, for the last few months or going forward, any exceptions to this should be directed from managers to divisional executives. That would all be worked out with final approval from divisional executives. HR would have no, you know, HR has no role in staggered shifts and things like that. And, you know, it's also important to note that work modification requests, work from home approvals, everything is temporary based on operational needs, and also the letters and certifications that you provided either from your child's school or the medical providers. The university can review modifications on a regular basis, and modifications can be amended or canceled based on changed circumstances. The governor issued an Executive Order 175 that permitted colleges to offer in-person instruction that had previously been restricted. Also, the New Jersey office, the Secretary of Higher Education, reinforced that institutions have the discretion to determine whether employees' job duties must be performed in person. So the university had that discretion. So let's kind of look at the modification requests, the types that, you know, that we're getting. The first is obviously the child care or school closures. Again, HR is processing 100% medical requests. So if it was a child care or school closure issue, we have instructed the employee to go back to their managers and the divisional executives to work out a modification. Whatever modification is worked out has to be approved by the divisional executives, and the modification, this kind of informal modification, requires some presence on campus. So you're working out those things with your divisional executives. If that isn't possible, you are able to use accrued leave and benefits provided under the FFCRA. There is leave available for that if that informal process was not, if you weren't able to work something out. So as far as what documentation you need for that child care related modification request, obviously you need, you know, you're stating the name of the child, the child's age. You need something from the school laying out their schedule, whether it's fully remote or whether it's hybrid. And you need a statement basically that there's not another responsible adult that can handle this. That's the employee statement. So that covers kind of the school closure issue. Again, if you weren't able to work something out, you're going to look at leave options, and that would come through our office to figure out, help you figure out the leave that you'd be eligible for. So the next one up is the health condition of the family member. Again, our process was the ones we were dealing with were 100% work modification requests related to the employee's own medical condition and/or disability. For requests related to the health of a household member, you may be eligible for leave for that, for those circumstances. If you're not able to return to work because of this reason, you should consult with myself or Joyce. We'll help you look at the potential available leave that you're eligible for. You know, FFCRA and family leave may be available to you if you're required to care for that person that has the health condition. So it's you know, this leave is based on caring for the person with a health condition. It's not necessarily based on staying home, just staying home and isolating with that person. You know, again, we really do acknowledge, you know, the entire human resources acknowledge your concerns related to COVID, but the university has put in safeguard measures recommended by the state, consistent with CDC guidelines. And if you feel after all of that in place, if you feel that your workplace or your individual situation, your desk or your office needs additional modifications for your comfort level, you really want to reach out to your manager, and they'll work with facilities to try to mitigate, help you feel more comfortable in that situation. Okay, so the last one is your individual health condition and/or documented disability. So these are the 100% work modification requests that are being processed through human resources. So how we went about this process. If the medical documentation you provided, along with your work modification request, if that indicated a medical condition or documented disability that might fall under the ADA, which means a documented disability that substantially limits one or more major life activities such as working. If that was potentially an ADA documented disability, then what we did was we referred that up to Dr. Valerie Hayes, who's our ADA coordinator. Those people that were referred up were given an extension until September 8th to allow that process to go through to see about approval. So what will happen is, if upon review, this is a potential situation where, based on the documented disability provided on the note, that would possibly limit an employee from performing their essential job functions, then the interactive process begins. So the interactive process includes conversations with the employee, conversations with the manager or divisional executive, to see if there is a need for, and if they can come to a reasonable accommodation that would enable them, based on the disability, to perform. It would enable them to perform their job functions. We asked that if we sent notification to the employee, we sent the reasonable accommodation, request for reasonable accommodation form. We sent that to the employee. and we ask them to complete the first page of that, which is the employee page, and send that back to us. We already have, for people, we already have an initial medical documentation. That's what we based it on. So we have something from your medical provider. So we ask you to do the first page. Upon review, we may come back during this process, we may come back and ask for additional medical documentation to support the request. What that additional medical documentation would really require is, you know, we want the doctor to look at the safety measures that are in place. So this is what Stockton has done to provide a safe workspace. We want the additional documentation to address the fact that there are safety measures in place. You know, does that change the opinion of the doctor? So that's the kind of thing we'd be looking at if we ask for additional information from the providers. This will help determine if a reasonable accommodation, you know, is available. Again, that's through the interactive process with the employee and the divisional executive. If a reasonable accommodation cannot be provided, then again, the employee would be directed back to us to discuss the available leave options. Please keep in mind your medical documentation is kept strictly confidential. We are not discussing anything on the notes, medical conditions, or anything with your managers or divisional executives, all right, during this process. They understand that we've verified the documentation, and we're, you know, that's the process will proceed from there. We're not disclosing any information. So that's kind of the process as we're going, you know, that's the process that's happening. And, you know, if we start looking at the leaves that are potentially available, depending on the situation, you've got your accrued leave.
Hey Bart, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but maybe I can I want to just give a brief overview of, just to remind people what they might be eligible for, so they can pay attention before you describe and get into the detail about the types of leaves. I want people to be able to pay attention to which type of leave they might want to really find out about, so they don't get lost in the.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So thank you for that overview. You know, just recap some of what you said and make it a little bit, you know, a little bit more structured here in the PowerPoint, just so that everyone's really clear. You began by talking about, you know, childcare and school closure issues. So again, if you can't, you described that 100% modifications are going through the HR process. If you cannot physically come to work due to the need to care for a child or a dependent, or you can work with your department to pursue other arrangements, informal arrangements, I think is what you called it. But, you know, if your work cannot be done remotely and you can't use any of these other options that Bart has described, you may need to pursue leave options. So the way we've structured this PowerPoint, that's why I stepped in to pause before Bart went into describing all the different types of leave. And so the way we've broken this PowerPoint down is we're going to talk about the different reasons why you might need to use leave. And as we go through each one, we're going to mention the types of leave that someone in that situation might be eligible for. So here at the bottom of the slide, you see that someone with a child care concern or a school closure issue, if you're in one of those situations, there's 3 types of leave categories that Bart's going to describe down at the bottom. So if you're in this situation, write down these acronyms and the names of these types of leaves, so that when Bart is describing them later and we work through those types of leaves, you pay attention to those options. So in a case like this with childcare concerns, you would have accrued leave, also known as PTO, available to you. You have emergency paid sick leave. That's an option, or EPSL. And there's Emergency Family Medical Leave Act, which is part of, is something that has been created also in response to the coronavirus situation. We'll get into the details of those later, but just if this situation applies to you, please take note of those types of leaves. That's for childcare concerns and school closure issues.
Do you wanna just, since you're on that, just take one at a time and just stick with that for the minute? As how we see that it would work?
In relation to specifically childcare concerns, I mean, basically, if you see how I structured it, I want people to be able to go through all the different scenarios so people know which types of leave they need to pay attention to, and then maybe we describe the leaves later. That's how I had.
Okay.
All right, thanks. So again, Bart was then talking about if you have a health condition of a family member, and this applies if you provide sole care for an individual, and again, obviously documentation is required, as Bart said. The types of leave down at the bottom of this slide that you might be eligible for in a situation like this are, again, accrued leave or PTO. A different one here in this case, the New Jersey Family Leave Act, so NJFLA. Another one, emergency paid sick leave, like the childcare concerns. And then another type of leave or job protection is regular Family Medical Leave Act, or just regular FMLA. Okay, that's opposed to emergency FMLA, as we talked about on the last slide. So again, if you're in this situation, if this situation applies to you, make note of these types of leaves, and we're going to go through the details of what those leaves look like in a bit. Bart was talking about health conditions, your own health condition. So again, the same situations apply for 100%, working with your department on an informal arrangement. But in the end, down at the bottom, these are the types of leaves that are available to you if this situation applies to you, if it's your own health condition that keeps you from being able to come to work on campus. So in this case, it would be accrued leave, again, PTO, emergency paid sick leave, or EPSL, the regular Family Medical Leave Act, again, regular FMLA, or a different one in this kind of situation is the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, which Bart did touch on. And I'm just going to go through this fairly quickly because Bart did touch upon it. But obviously, the ADA requires that an employer provide a reasonable accommodation to an employee. And there is an interactive process that happens between the employer and the employee, as Bart described. The key thing about this in regards to our current moment in time is that the health issues that place one at risk and that may change, that may make one eligible for ADA accommodations has changed in response to the COVID situation that we're currently in. And these conditions that you see on your screen now are considered to put someone at high risk or increased risk for contracting COVID-19. So these conditions may make one eligible for ADA accommodations. Again, I'm using may with all of these things that we're saying because everybody has very specific situations. So everything we're saying, it depends on someone's specific situation. But these are some of the conditions that may qualify according to our understanding of the ADA and how that plays in. And if you pursue this route, some of the possible accommodations that, some of the possible reasonable accommodations that someone could obtain if they have one of these underlying health conditions, some examples, not a full list or an exclusive list, but there could be permitting remote or hybrid or online teaching. There could be an alternative workspace provided to that employee. There could be modified work schedules. There could be some limited changes to working conditions. Again, permitting the use of paid or unpaid leave. And then in some situations, there may be the provision of additional protective gear, such as N95 masks or respirators, or some other type of protective gear, depending on the employee's situation. So now we've just run through the different kinds of conditions that may qualify someone or may make someone eligible to use the different kinds of leave. So now that you know which ones you should be paying attention to, maybe we could walk through some of those things. So Bart, maybe I could throw to you to start, like you've been ready to start talking about accrued leave, PTO, and then going into FMLA, please.
Okay, so we all have sick, vacation, and comp time. Well, faculty just have sick time, but the rest of us have sick, vacation, and comp time. So in a situation of the school closures, if there are days where you don't, if you couldn't work out a schedule with your divisional executive and manager, if you needed to use time, you would be eligible for the FFCRA. So you've got for school closures, provided you have the documentation. You're eligible for the initial 2 weeks at 2/3 your salary, and then for school-related issues, you have the additional 10 weeks of the expanded Family and Medical Leave Act for school closures. This would, if you're using the Family Leave Act, the expanded Family and Medical Leave, it would go toward your annual allotment for family leave. Those things are both at 2/3 your salary. We will let you use your own leave time to make you whole, basically. So you can supplement the leave through FFCRA with your own leave time to make you whole on that for up to the 12 weeks.
Great. So what Bart is, thank you, Bart. So what Bart has, that's great. We began by talking about just for my structured mind, I just want to go through it step by step to make sure we hit all the different options. So you started out talking about accrued leave, PTO, as you said, that includes your sick, vacation, and comp time. And then you had jumped to talking about the FFCRA. So just so everyone knows what that means, that acronym refers to the Family's First Coronavirus Response Act, which is meant to assist employees during this COVID time by providing additional leave options. And so these options, the specific types of leave that, again, you had written down that you wanted to be paying attention to in different situations. Those options include emergency paid sick leave and emergency Family and Medical Leave Act, or emergency FMLA. So, Bart had been talking about the emergency paid sick leave. So that's 2 weeks or up to 80 hours, 2 weeks of work of paid leave for eligible employees. And if you take that emergency paid leave because of your own medical condition, remember that was one of the conditions where you could use the EPSL, the emergency paid sick leave. If it's taken for your own medical condition, that would actually provide you full pay up to a limit that you see on the screen, $511 a day, or $5,110 total for those 2 weeks. If you take this type of leave for someone else's medical condition or for childcare purposes, it would pay you at a 2/3 rate, up to $200 a day or $2,000 total. And as Bart mentioned, if you're in a situation where you're using the 2/3 pay, you can augment that 2/3 pay with your PTO to bring it up to your full pay level if you wish to do that. And continuing on with the types of leave that Bart was talking about, specifically created under the FFCRA, Emergency FMLA was one of the ones we talked about, right? The federal government has expanded this option to provide up to 12 weeks of partially paid family leave. So eligible employees may take this leave if they're unable to work or telework. This one is specifically due to the need to care for a minor child whose school or daycare is closed due to COVID-19. So remember, if this is one of the situations you were in and this type of leave was one of the ones that applied to your situation, this one again pays two-thirds, gives you two-thirds pay for that 12-week period, again, up to a limit of 200 a day or 2,000 total. And that applies after the first 2 weeks. So theoretically, this one and the emergency paid sick leave, that's that 2 weeks of pay, they kind of work together in a sense, because the one covers the first 2 weeks. This one would cover you for all the weeks after that within a 12-week period. And again, with this one, if you're in a two-thirds pay situation, you can augment with your own PTO in order to bring you up to full pay. And then again, just working through the types of leaves, we kind of glanced over this one, but one of the ones we mentioned was regular Family Medical Leave Act. So regular FMLA. Regular FMLA, if you're eligible for that, it basically gives you 12 work weeks of leave, job protection, in a 12-month period. This is an unpaid, this is basically just job protection, and it doesn't provide pay in and of itself. So it's just job protection. It's an unpaid leave, essentially, for FMLA. Although I believe you can also, again, you can take your PTO. I believe you can use your PTO to supplement if you wanted to go that route. Although I guess you wouldn't need to if you wanted to use up your PTO ahead of time. I think that's normally how folks would do it. So that's regular FMLA. And then the last one, just to be structured and make sure we touch on the different types, was the Family Leave Act. Okay, this one, if you were eligible for that one, if that was one of the ones we mentioned, applying to your condition or the situation you find yourself in, the Family Leave Act, FLA, eligible employees can take up to, again, 12 weeks of job protected leave during any 24-month period. So again, that one's just job protection. It's 12 weeks as well. So it's similar to FMLA, but it applies in different situations. So just so you know which ones you're eligible for and which one, and kind of getting into the details there. So
I want to interject quickly for Joe and Bart. Some questions that are coming up that are sort of generalized here is, are part-time employees eligible for FFCRA? And then the leave amounts, are they salary amounts? Are they pre-taxed, et cetera? So if one of you could answer those questions, both are part-time employees eligible for FFCRA, and then how are they distributed as they come out?
So the way I understand the part-time with FFCRA is that they're eligible for it up to the amount of hours that they would normally work in a week. So it's, when we're talking about for full-time people, it's 2 weeks of what they, how many hours they work. It would be the same for part-time people. They kind of prorate it based on how many hours they work in a week. What was the second part?
So the actual leave itself, are they the salary amounts? Are they pre-taxed? So how does the member?
And specifics, I would refer you to payroll, but my understanding is they're earnings codes. And the way it would work is, if we're talking about 2/3, basically the amount of hours you work in a day, it would be put in hours-wise. 2/3 of those hours would be under the FFCRA code, and then the additional third would be under whatever accrued leave you're going to be using.
Okay, thank you. Ran through the different types of leave. Bart, was there anything that you think?
So if you go back to the family leave one. Okay, yeah, that one. The one right before that.
Sorry?
FMLA.
Oh, FMLA.
Yeah. So, you know, we get these 12 weeks in a 12-month period. Again, like Joe said, family leave is job protection. That's the leave time itself. It's not paid leave. Where the EMFLA, basically because of COVID, they extended the family leave to include school closures. And in that situation, in that one situation, they will allow you to get paid up to 2/3 your salary. But so it's like it's an add-on to family leave, FMLA. And in this one particular situation for school closures is when the add-on can be paid. Otherwise, FMLA is to care for, it's to cover your own medical condition or to care for a spouse, child, or parent if you are caring for them. Because they have a medical condition. You're eligible for that time. If that situation came up, we would give you the appropriate family leave forms where the medical provider would have to certify that you have to care for them. And then you're put on the leave. And then during that time, which people typically do with family leave, they use their time to keep them in paid status. If it's a situation for themselves, and they don't have available time, you know, if it's a documented, if it's a disability, then the physician could fill out disability forms saying this, you know, this person can't work and they're on disability, and that would go through state of New Jersey. If you go to the slide in New Jersey FLA. So if you use this is similar to federal family leave. However, New Jersey does not cover your own medical condition. It is only to care for a medical condition of a spouse, child, or parent. During this, people also sometimes use their own accrued leave. In this situation, New Jersey has the New Jersey FLI, the Family Leave Insurance, which is partially paid. That it's family leave, but it's paid through the same division that pays out through disability. Again, we would give you the forms if you're caring for somebody else, give you the forms to get paid through New Jersey Family, but the provider would have to certify that you are needed to care for this person.
Okay. A question that had come up previously, just to clarify, because FMLA, regular FMLA, is 12 weeks within a year period, isn't it true that if someone within the past year has already used their 12 months of FMLA, that they would not be eligible to use more of that time during, you know, more regular FMLA? And is that also true for emergency FMLA?
Yes, the emergency FMLA looks to see how much of your leave time, how much of your family leave allotment you used in the 12-month period. So it could potentially, it would potentially reduce the amount of time you have for this.
Okay, that applies to both. Thank you for clarifying that.
Additionally, Bart, EFMLA, it can be taken incrementally. That's true, right? That is a possibility for it to be taken incrementally?
Yeah, so depending on the situation, you know, with school closures, depending on the situation, if you are working or working remotely one day, and then you're not able to do that the next day, then the day that you're not working or working remotely, you could use the FFCRA leave. So it can be used intermittently in that respect.
Okay, great. Yeah, if there's other questions coming in, feel free to add. I think I'm looking at our final question list. The one that we definitely haven't gotten to is just the situation in which, you know, what happens if someone's request is denied? Is there any kind of appeal process or an ability to, request further documentation to add and kind of remake the case? How does that dealt with?
So I would say there's not a formal appeal process. However, if additional information or a change, if you have additional information or there's a change of circumstance, you would then resubmit through the work modification process.
I see. Okay. Folks, are there other questions that have come in the chat?
There is a question. I'm sorry there's going to be noise behind me because there's some things in the background of my house happening right now. But one of the questions that is coming in various forms has to do with if someone has been denied the 100% work from home, okay, can they now go to their manager to request some kind of modification alternative? So we're seeing a lot of questions like that. So they went through the Office of Human Resources to request the 100% work from home. That was denied. Can they now go back to their manager to request some kind of modification alternative?
I would say if there is a concern, I think you go back to your manager. Everything must be approved by the divisional executive, so nobody should be making any decisions without the divisional executive knowing about it. Go back. Maybe it's a situation where they can contact facilities, alter the workplace, provide some, informal modification there that would make you feel more secure. Otherwise, that's where you would go. You would talk to your manager and who will consult with the divisional executive.
Thank you, Bart. Another question that's coming up is that, and this is it's a sort of in the realm of possibility. So if an employee technically would have qualified for 100% work from home, maybe due to childcare or maybe due to some self-identified healthcare risk that is definite risk, can this employee still be denied the 100% work from home because the university or their divisional executive has determined that their position is essential, as in they won't permit the position to work from home, even if they would have qualified for the 100% work from home? Let's use childcare as an example. Can they still be denied, the 100% work from home?
Based on the guidance from higher ed, the universities have the right to designate which positions are essential on campus. You're never going to be, you have the right to the leave, obviously, but they can deny the 100% work from home modification. That's my understanding.
Thank you.
I'll jump in with a question here. I don't know if there's anything, people have consistently asked what type of documentation is required for the various requests. You touched upon that, like with the certain forms are needed, but obviously with different conditions, there's so many different things.
Right.
More guidance on that you could give?
The school ones are relatively the easy ones. We need to know, we need to know who the child is, that the child is under age 18, that the school is, information from the school, what their schedule is, whether it's remote, whether it's fully remote, whether it's hybrid, to what point that is, like, have they designated, we're going to reevaluate this in October, we're going to reevaluate this in November, and just a statement from the employee that there is no other, appropriate person that can also share in, I don't want to say the burden of being at home with your child, but you know what I mean, so that they can share in this process. If you are going to use, any kind, if you're going to use family leave, or if it's disability, or the New Jersey FMLA insurance, you're going to have to provide documentation that you are that person, you're caring for that person, that you have to be home because you're caring for a person, because, the state is going to, the state obviously scrutinizes that documentation before they're going to pay, issue payment to you.
Okay.
Thanks, Bart. Another question that came in was, let's say a person was denied 100% working from home, and they have arranged right now with their manager to have both remote and in person. Could this individual choose to use their leave on the days when they are supposed to be in the office? So they would continue with the remote schedule, but on the days that they're supposed to be in the office, use their leave.
I think I might need to get back to you on that one, because that's kind of defeating in one way, that's kind of defeating that. The idea is this informal modification was that you are supposed to have some presence on campus. And if you're just using your leave to get out of that part of it, I have to get back to you on that. So if you could submit that question to me in writing, I'll try to get you an answer.
I will, Bart. Some other questions that are coming in have to do with if an individual has to get tested for COVID, for example, and the results take a few days. Can the individual use sick leave for that time? Should they be using other leave? What if someone is taking a COVID test and waiting for results, what leave should they use then?
Well, they can definitely use sick leave, but they may be eligible at that point. If they're seeking a diagnosis, they may be eligible for the FFCRA leave because they're seeking a diagnosis. If you are just, if you do the health pledge and because you have some kind of symptoms that, it could be COVID or it could be just a cold. If you're seeking if you're reaching out to your medical provider and seeking a diagnosis, that may be a reason to use the FFCRA leave, emergency sick leave. But you're obviously certainly able to use your own accrued sick time.
Great. This is a question that's kind of that's come up. We appreciate your clarification about the university, having sole authority about who can and cannot work from home. How does that interact with the ADA process? So I guess the question would be, can the university, how does the university navigate that terrain? So if someone has a medical situation, but that individual, their position or duties are deemed essential on campus, and how does the university navigate compliance with ADA?
So first, I'll say that the ADA process is completely directed by Valerie Hayes. In HR, we may be assisting her in the process, but she's directing this. As part of the interactive process, based on the documentation, based on the request, those conversations will happen. And an accommodation, we kind of all know the accommodation people are requesting up front, which is 100% work from home. As part of this process, another, if eligible, another reasonable accommodation may come out of that. Something different from what was originally requested as part of the process. Otherwise, leave, we would refer back to the leave process. But specific, anything more specific like that would be handled through the interactive process. Like specific answers would be handled through the interactive process.
Thank you. There's a question here that's an interesting one. If someone has been given permission to work from home on specific days, could the individual choose to work in their office if they're following safety procedures on the days that they were previously approved to work from home?
I think, always review everything with the divisional executive, but my gut would tell me that the divisional executive is never going to look at having the person be on campus in the office, in that situation. Just always make sure that we're all completing that daily pledge in the morning. So as long as that person is feeling fine and not experiencing any symptoms, I would say, we'd love to have you in the office.
Thank you, Bart. So if someone did not additionally apply because they didn't think that they would qualify for 100% work from home, are there additional opportunities to apply? Or if someone's medical conditions change, what is the process by which they should apply for these accommodations?
Certainly, if there's a change in medical condition or circumstances, the person should put in a request. If they didn't think they applied, I'm not going to tell anybody that they can't put in a request. If they didn't meet the initial deadline, while the request is being processed, they would likely have to use their own accrued leave. If they weren't, if they weren't coming to work while waiting for the process to play out, then I would say at this point they would probably have to use their own accrued leave.
Thank you. Another question here. You told us, I believe, that people who are undergoing sort of the interactive ADA process, that's with Dr. Valerie Hayes. Is that process, has that process begun? And when should people hear back from there? I guess people are concerned again, since each of these processes has run up to the deadline, how soon might they hear back so that they know if they have to explore leave options?
Well, we extended, everything's been extended to September 8th for the people that are going through that process. So my answer now is that they would be hearing something this week, because September 8th is next Tuesday. So that process is going to play out this week.
Thank you. Some of the other questions that are coming in, I don't know that you're really the right person to answer these, but I do want to just voice the concern that some people who have what we will call forward-facing positions, there's concern about how will they know if visitors have filled out the pledge and things like that. I don't know that you're really the right person to answer that question, but there's definitely concern for members about that.
Right. So send that question to me, and we'll try to get you an answer on that. Yeah, because I can only speak to the employee, how the employee pledges are working.
Sure. Thank you. So, sorry, for ADA things, ADA inquiries and things, those go directly to those go through the office, Dr. Valerie Hayes' office. I will also just mention, while we have you here and while folks are paying attention to these types of leaves, that there are resources. The form that you mentioned is on HR's website, as there are other resources and FAQs that are there, some of which are pretty helpful for understanding this information. There's specifically one document that we may, if we send out any follow-up information to our members, we may link this document that HR put together. That is a table that kind of has some of this information we covered today in a table form, which if you're having any lingering confusion, wondering which types of leave you might be eligible for in your situation, we can include that document. Just wanted to insert that.
And just to clarify, Bart, anyone who is under consideration as part of the interactive ADA process right now has been notified that the determination will be made by September 8th. Other employees, if this was denied, have been told that they need to return on September 1st. So in that case, their case is no longer under consideration for ADA accommodation. It is at this point, it is closed at this point. It's not undergoing an ADA determination. Is that accurate?
That's accurate, right?
Okay. Thank you. I think that there were still questions about that, whether if someone's case was still active or not. So if you have been told that to report on September 1st, your particular case is not part of the interactive ADA process. If you have been notified that it is under consideration, then it will be, you should hear something before September 8th. So
we have just a point point of order. We will be continuing on with some questions and points after 11:30, but I know Bart has to drop off at 11:30. I hope everyone else will stay on for a little while longer, all of our members. But are there any other questions that have come in that while we have Bart for a couple more minutes that we want to bring up?
There's one more question here that the person is concerned that they have a medical condition that falls under ADA, but it was not addressed and they were told to report back on September 1st. What is the recommendation for that individual who believes that their medical condition falls under ADA, but they were told to report on September 1st?
I would say reach out to HR. Because I don't know, I don't know what that situation is.
Exactly, right, because everyone is individual. Thank you,
Yeah.
Bart.
Yeah, and that's a general rule. We've mentioned it earlier, but it bears repeating that we know many of these situations are highly individualized and there's many complexities involved. So if you have any questions, it's best to reach out if you have one of those complexities going on, just to get clarification. Any other final questions that have come into the chat in our moments here with Bart?
There's more requests for if there was an appeal process, but Bart already answered that.
Yeah, it seems like resubmitting. You're always welcome to resubmit. I think
Change in circumstances, additional information.
Right, additional documentation, information. That seems to be the way forward. Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Bart, for your time, and we appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you, Bart.
Okay, bye-bye. All right, everyone. I hope that was informative. I know it's a lot of information, and we just have a few more things that we would like to share with you at this point. Emery, do you want to?
Sure.
Thanks.
So I think it's important for professional staff members and librarians to recognize that the union feels very strongly about trying to create work from home opportunities for you. We recognize that the process has changed. We also recognize that when Michael Angulo sent out the August 12th email, a particular process was laid out and that there was a distinction made between forward-facing and non-forward-facing employees. Several days later, the governor passed a new resolution that created exemptions for higher education, and people were required to come back to campus at that point because of these exemptions. The union finds it frustrating that those of you who have successfully completed your work from home over the summer are now being told that you cannot do that in the fall term. And we have continued to advocate on your behalf with members of cabinet. Unfortunately, we have no legal grounds to ask management to permit more or all of you to work from home. The university messaging is that if we are encouraging students to return, both to live in the residence halls, to eat in our food courts, and to attend classes on campus, we would be offering a counter message by saying that we would permit anyone who wants to work from home to work from home. So if we are inviting students to use our services on campus, we need to show a united front that it is safe to return to campus, okay? Roger, do you want to add additional things here?
So Emery, as always, has articulated things very well. I would like to say, from the union's point of view, we don't find that argument particularly persuasive, and we've made it repeatedly that the whole point about having managers on the front lines is to say that they should be using their discretionary judgment as a way of creating the best possible environment for all of the professional staff and librarians and so on that are working in these situations. And when I say repeatedly, I want to say almost daily, we have been making these arguments to management in terms of the better solution being one in which they say, well, look, okay, legitimately, this person here is never going to see a student. So there's absolutely no reason why they should have to be in here. And if they're uncomfortable coming in, we're not going to lose anything by having them do their work at home. We've made this argument over and over again. Management seems to have, and we would actually be happier if management would just come out and honestly admit that what Emory has stated is their policy. We seem to get it on the side, but we don't get it in a honest, straightforward representation of their position on there. So a couple of things, please, if you would. If you see colleagues in your office who are being given an alternate work arrangement and so on, it may be that because for once management has used their discretionary powers to try to create at least a little better situation. This can, of course, be immensely frustrating if you're not the person getting that. But our argument had been to management was, better that you at least make life better for some people rather than take this kind of hard line, everybody's got to be here no matter what. The part of our motivation for trying to give the presentation today was to break down some of the large scale misunderstandings that had been taking place. But we realized, as Joe said, that was a lot of information, and we will continue. I want to say the union officers, almost to a one, have not taken a break I can't remember when. We've been responding to emails 7 days a week and so on. And I would like to conclude by saying that the faculty are quite sympathetic to your circumstances. They too find it absurd that individuals who have demonstrated repeatedly since March that they can do their work efficiently and effectively from home have not been allowed to continue to do so. So we do want you to know that the faculty stand with you on this and are pushing back wherever possible. You'll see that there are, on the officers of the union include faculty and professional staff as well. And all of us have been making that position known. Quite frankly, it'll be quite interesting to see what happens come January and what management does all the way along the line, but we'll deal with one crisis at a time.
Yeah, thank you, Roger. I just want to emphasize to folks and restate that, our leadership, I mean, there's been times in the past, I don't think this has been even in doubt recently. There have been times in the past that people have felt that professional staff issues were not given enough attention by our union, but I can tell you, people are working tirelessly on issues that affect our members. These issues, especially Emory and Roger, I want to commend them and thank them. These issues don't necessarily even affect them personally, specifically, but we have been doing everything we can to try to get the best outcome for you all. And I know a lot of the questions that have come in or sentiments that have been expressed is, professional staff feeling it's a little unfair, unfair that faculty had a choice, so to speak, whether they wanted to teach online or in person, but that same opportunity wasn't offered to staff. And like Roger said, there is a sentiment that is not logical or fair necessarily, and we're doing what we can. But Emory also stated the reality of the situation as it stands. So, anyways, I wanted to make sure that we stated that. There is so one thing I wanted to cover, a question that has come in. Oh, sorry, Roger, did you want to jump in on that?
No. I just want to remind people there is a full union meeting on September 3rd at 1 o'clock. We're going to be, we have a large number of issues we want to do. We didn't want to hold it also on the same day as the Fall Faculty Conference. So it'll be set aside at 1 o'clock. You should, Joe, Stacy, correct me if I'm wrong about this, they should according to our contract, be able to attend the union meeting without any penalty whatsoever from your managers. If any manager ever gives you flack about attending one of our scheduled union meetings like this, please reach out to us. Nazia is but waiting with bated breath to file a grievance against anyone who does such a thing.
Oh, I'm sure. But I mean, that is a great point, Roger. Like right now, there is so much uncertainty. We don't know what the next few months hold, this academic year holds, if we go backwards, if we go forwards, if things tighten up, if restrictions are loosened or tightened, no one knows. So having a strong union presence and participation by all of our members is really important right now, because having people be informed and unified as a group gives us the strongest possible position to negotiate from, or not formal negotiations even, but just to advocate on behalf of all of our members as a unit. Having people be involved, showing up at our union meetings, and being involved, taking an active role is really important and valuable during this time. So if you can make it on Thursday, that would be terrific. I just wanted to also, a specific question has come in. Some folks who have pursued that informal route, trying to get an informal arrangement done within their divisions, within their departments, have been given a form to fill out that was submitted back on the 27th last week, and it would go into effect tomorrow. My understanding is most people have not heard back whether that form was approved formally yet. And my understanding is that we should hear back today, basically. Of course, everything is part of this whole issue is that they've been pushed to the very last moment, but we should plan to hear by today. I'm going to look into that a little bit more. I don't know if any of the other officers have information about that, but I assume we should hear today because those agreements are scheduled to go into effect tomorrow. So expect to hear. I'll also, we'll send an email off today just to make sure that, and at least an update, if that's not the case, that at least an update will go out about that. Like we heard for the ADA process that, or some of the 100% requests that the deadline has been pushed back to the 8th. Maybe they'll do a similar thing, although we have no information about that yet when it comes to the informal arrangements within departments. So that is that. Any other questions or things that have come in that the officers think we need to address?
I want to let people know that we will both share the PowerPoint with folks and we will also share the recording. It is likely that the recording will be posted on the SFT YouTube page instead of distributing it over campus email. Obviously, none of you were identified by your questions, but I think that it is useful for us to separate where we are posting our information, whether it's the university shared drive versus our own YouTube channel. I also encourage you to look at the leave documents that Roger sent out previously. I think that those are very helpful and they spell out the information. They include links to both the state and federal guidelines as well, which are remarkably easy to read as well, particularly the FAQ sections. So, you can check them out. And I don't know that I have anything else. I know that, and Stacy Rose, you might be able to answer this question. There are questions about if there are people who are not complying with the mask wearing, where should people be reporting that to?
That's a great question. We're actually going to be, you just reminded me, launching a new page, but those can be submitted to our office, and there's a general incident reporting form that you can submit it. You can submit them anonymously. We just need to know name of the individual and a description of what happened in order to facilitate that. Even if you, if it's a faculty staff person, you can submit that obviously directly to Human Resources. But if you use our form, we do forward that information to HR and we don't do anything with it. So it's not, if you submit it to us, it's not like we're going to ignore it. We will make sure it gets routed where it needs to be.
Can you just clarify what your office is and how people would find that?
Oh, yeah. Hi, everybody. I work in the Care and Community Standards Office, so I manage most of the adjudication on campus for our students. We do have a centralized reporting system, and there's going to be a new page launching this week, which is on the Care and Community Standards website, which says, how do I report? And it's got a list of common things that people report and your options for reporting those things. So, yeah.
Would that hold true for a visitor as well?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just anyone that's, because like I said, our responsibility, if it's not routed to us, to reroute it to who it's supposed to be.
Okay. Anything else? Final thoughts, officers, Emery, Tina, Stacy, Maria, Roger, Nazia? Okay.
Thank you all for showing
Yeah.
up today and for doing the incredible work you've been doing throughout the summer. I know that you have worked harder this summer than any other summer, and this is a pandemic. We are working in a pandemic. So I value you incredibly. I value the work that you're doing, and please know that we will continue to do whatever we can to try to protect you as best we can. Additionally, if and when you do return to campus, if you're returning tomorrow, if there are unsafe conditions, please document them. Take your cell phone out and take pictures. Immediately forward those both to your supervisor and to, really, it would be Nazia in this case, because that is an unsafe working condition. Okay, so take pictures. If you are in a position, that you're unable to get pictures or something like that, ask someone else to as well. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Emery. And with that, I think we will, we're ending a little bit early. If you think of anything after the meeting, please reach out to one of the officers and we'll do our best to get you the information and the questions that we're submitting in writing to Bart that he wasn't able to answer. We will try to make sure that that information is disseminated as we have it. Otherwise, everyone stay safe, take care, and have a good day.
Take care.